about this sort of topic before, where there's every single classification of weapons, some that really stand out and that get the most use compared to any other. So for example, what you'd run into Black Ops 4 with, you'd probably end up seeing the rifle classification dominated in most lobbies by the Maddox RFB or the ICR. The submachine guns, probably that being the SOG 9mm, maybe the Spitfire as well if you run into somebody running the Wildfire Operator mod. I ran into that so much as of recently. Tactical rifles are usually your Swordfish with the Operator mod and maybe the Auger DMR as well. LMGs, you get the picture, Titan, and so on and so forth. Paladin being that final to the sniper rifle. But what about the other weapons that you can really do well with and that can really excel if given the chance? Today I want to give you guys 4 weapons that I feel like not really many people are using compared to at least the lobbies that I've seen. Maybe your experience differs greatly. I want to talk about 4 weapons here in Black Ops 4 that I think are rather underrated and can do insanely well here for you. So without further ado, let's just jump right into it. Let's start out with one that I think again is underrated just by its association that it keeps. The rifles are of course a very powerful classification of weaponry within Black Ops 4, and I'd even go as so far to say that it's dominant within Black Ops 4, that they're the best classification of weapon to end up using. That said, when we end up taking a look at the rifle classification, you end up again running into a lot of Maddox RFBs, a lot of ICRs. But the one that really stands out to me as being that next tier of great weapon is the KN57, but personally I haven't run into it all that much as of recently. So for this I usually end up running the KN with the quick draw, grip, stock, and rapid fire attachments. That's going to cost you additionally the primary gunfighter 1 and 2 for this, but that sort of attachment setup on the KN makes it absolutely a beast. Now, I'm a huge fan of the ELO sight, I've made that clear many times, but the KN57 doesn't have all that bad iron sights, so it allows me to put another attachment on while fitting it all into that PIC-10 system. But with the attachments that we have set up here on this, we end up seeing that it can actually be something that at mid-range and even slightly long range is rather effective with that grip, but close quarters, it gets the job done tremendously as well with that rapid fire. It just absolutely shreds through enemies. So the quick draw obviously getting us up to gunfights a lot faster, the grip allowing us to mitigate that recoil that we may have in terms of those medium to long range gunfights. Stock allows us to just pre-aim corners, have our gun ready and at our ADS position so that we can end up getting into gunfights immediately. And also, if you're trying to throw somebody's aim off, strafing back and forth is absolutely crucial as well. And again, rapid fire just gets that all out there as fast as possible so that we can get as many shots in compared to our enemies. Now, while this class isn't necessarily built for long or close quarters gunfights to be the main strong suit, it does excel well compared to other classes we may end up using. But that said, it still excels the most at medium range, as most rifles do. But all around, it makes it a lot more favorable in every sort of scenario. As for your equipment and everything that goes along with this with your perks, I end up running the stim shot as my gear. I've kind of reverted back to that. I started using the acoustic sensor a lot as of the past couple of weeks, but then came back to stim shot just because I've been getting way more into the action than I feel like. And so having that extra 2 to 3 seconds of having to wait to regen my health can be the matter of life and death. But along with that, we also run Scavenger because I plan on staying alive long, and I also love ammo, plus Dead Silence because while Ghost is nice and all to stay off the UAV, I think that the majority of the times I'll be able to get in and out of the enemy team's positioning with Dead Silence a lot more than I would with Ghost. Plus, the more and more that I end up putting Dead Silence on my classes, the more I realize how loud footsteps are in this game, and as somebody that uses a headset, that just gets kind of annoying whenever you go back to not using it. That said, that's the KN57 class here at this one, and that moves us over into the second weapon we want to talk about, that being an LMG. And it's not the Titan, because we're talking about more so underrated class setups here at this one, but that being the Hades is what we're talking about next. The Titan is really the only LMG I ever run into. I think that out of all the time I spent getting B-roll footage and checking out different weapons the past couple of days, I think I maybe ran into 1 or 2 people using the Hades and maybe 1 or 2 people using the VKM. Other than that, there was at least 1 person per lobby using the Titan. But the Hades is one that is honestly rather comparable in pretty much all of its statistics. Fire rate, recoil pattern, and the ability to control that, damage, range, you name it, it's actually still very solid. It's just in the shadow of the Titan a lot of the times. So for this, we end up running a class setup of the Reflex Sight, the Steady Grip, FMJ, and Hybrid Mags. Now, the reason we're throwing on Reflex and not ELO is because as of the time of getting all this footage, I didn't actually have it ranked up all that much, but the other things still really fall in line as to what works out the best. That class setup with the attachments will cost you 1 different wildcard for the primary gunfighter 1, but Reflex gives us a little bit more precise aim with where we're putting our shots. I'm not a huge fan of the iron sights of the Hades, and so therefore either Reflex or ELO is what I'd end up using, but it's also something that we'll take a look at in a future video some of the other optics actually really mitigate the amount of recoil you end up having. So some can be better, but for what I was using in the gameplay here, Reflex or Elo is definitely what I'd end up going with. Steady grip allows you to end up having that reduced recoil, as it naturally suggests. FMJ, penetrate and destroys armor, of course, great to have because armor is one of the most annoying things I think here within Black Ops 4 in gunfights. And then plus, probably the most important thing here out of this is hybrid mags. You get increased capacity for your ammo, and also you can reload a little faster. Plus, when you end up adding in stim shot, allowing you to get in the action more, as well as the perks of scavenger, dexterity, and dead silence, it makes for a very great class setup. Dexterity is the only thing that's kind of out of the ordinary from being staple across the board for these perk setups. Dexterity, though, will allow you to end up using your weapon and firing it and using equipment while sprinting, and also you recover from sprint a lot faster. That's something that's absolutely big because I try and play as mobile as possible with this LMG setup, so therefore it allows me to get in the action and stay in the action, plus nice little bonus of being able to reload at full speed. So that's something that's also great. Next up, we're gonna jump into our final two weapons here, which share the same classification, but are ones that are either shadowed by a few other weapons in that being the SOG 9mm and the Spitfire, but the Cordite is what we'll talk about next. This one is one that is rather interesting to me, and going into it, I was curious how much I'd actually really like it, but being that I have to do this still for Dark Matter, I actually really am looking forward to getting this one done now, completely. Normally when you end up using a weapon that doesn't really have all that many attachments, it is something that isn't all that great, but the Cordite, even at its base level, isn't bad at all. The fire rate, the damage, the ability to control the recoil, for anybody that likes close quarters combat, this is a great option here for you. When you throw on even some of the more basic things like what you'll see in the gameplay of the extended mags and FMJ, it's a very solid choice. Extended mags, of course, is one that doubles it, and with an SMG classification still having 3 magazines whenever you start, that's 160 shots that you don't really need to run Scavenger, but still, I'm an ammo hoarder, so therefore I love Scavenger still on this. But you end up having things also once you rank it up, like grip, rapid fire, that really do help out tremendously. But for this, in just the gameplay you'll be seeing right now, we end up running the extended mags and FMJ once again. I would, if you end up ranking it up, sacrifice a little bit of the perks that we end up using as well, so you could end up getting grip or rapid fire, but that one really comes down to personal preference. We also end up running for this class setup that you'll be seeing in the background, stim shot, scavenger, gung ho, and dead silence, as well as a ghost. Little perk 3 greed there on that one, so you can end up getting 2. But this thing overall is honestly a powerhouse close quarters, and it's one that didn't really give all that much of a chance because the SMGs kind of rubbed me the wrong way from the beginning of Black Ops 4 and launch, and they're still, once again, the only class setup that I haven't made any dent in for Dark Matter. But if you're looking for something off the beaten path of what maybe everybody uses in terms, again, the SOG 9mm and the Spitfire, definitely give this one a go. Now, the final SMG that we'll talk about and round out this video with is one that I actually only really kind of started to use because I got the variants out of the Contraband stream, that being the GKS. And while I'm not a huge fan of the GKS Damascus and also then the Tactical Unicorn iron sights with this, you can still throw on, of course, your base GKS as well. But this one is one of the few weapons that ends up having grip 1 and 2, which is something you should totally take advantage of if it's ever available. So for this class setup, we end up running the grip 1 and 2 naturally. Then we also run quick draw as well as long barrel because the damage at range for the GKS is not the greatest, but it can be made better and still be made a weapon that is at least formidable in a lot of gunfights. This and the Cordite, of course, are weapons that I wouldn't necessarily advocate going for those longer range engagements, but if you end up moving over into the mid-range engagements even, it makes it worthwhile and something you can end up getting the kills with. So grip 1 and 2 end up stacking together and making it almost a pea shooter in terms of recoil, and it's very easy to control. Whether you like the iron sights or you want to toss on an optic or just keep the base default GKS variants, doesn't matter, you'll be able to end up seeing that at range is still fantastic in trying to use for staying pinpoint precise. Quick draw allows us to get that weapon up a little faster for gunfights, and of course long barrel extends that damage drop off, which is crucial for something like an SMG that doesn't have the longest range to begin with. We of course have 2 primary gunfighters on with that, but then we also run the stim shot as well as scavenger and dead silence. Because we don't run any extended mags here on this, it is something we do run out of ammo kind of quickly. You end up only having 38 rounds per shot, which isn't all that bad, but only 3 magazines and something that it takes about 5 to 6 shots, I think, at the minimum for the GKS. You're gonna run through that ammo no matter what. pretty fast. So Scavenger is of course huge, and Dead Silence allows you to stay a little more hidden for players that may or may not have headsets and may not hear you coming. But all in all, that is 4 class setups of weapons that I think are not necessarily given as much limelight as they may deserve. These weapons of course all shred through enemies in the right hands, and I had a ton of fun going for different gameplays and playing around with them, going for headshot challenges, whatever it may be. And so therefore, let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. Give these a try for yourself and let me know how you do with them. Do you have anything that you'd like to add to this or take away from this list in either terms of weaponry or the specific pieces to each class setup? Whatever it is, let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below. But hopefully you enjoyed the video. If you did, make sure you drop a like down below, and of course if you are new to the channel, make sure you guys subscribe so you don't miss a single thing regarding all things Black Ops 4, multiplayer, Blackout, zombies, you name it, we got you covered with the best of updates, news, information, tips, tricks, all that good stuff we got you covered here on the channel. So if any of that interests you, hit that subscribe button so you don't miss a single thing. If you guys also want to follow me over on Twitter and Instagram, those are the best places to get connected outside of YouTube. Practically live on both those, so those links are down there in the description below for you guys to check out if you're so interested. That said, thank you guys all so much for watching. Mine's been Espresso. I'll see you guys later. Take care, and peace.